Hello friends, I welcome you all to this online session of a compulsory English. In the last session we have completed module number 5, that is a group discussion. And while discussing this unit, we also understand that this syllabus is not only meant to enhance your language skills, but it is meant to enhance your employability. And employability is not a single skill, but it is a bunch of skills. And and it is also not related to the language. It is related to your personality, it is related to your manners, it is related to your skills. All these things are compiled, consisted in a good personality which is employable, or we can say that is a good candidatureship. That is important in today's world, where we are facing a cutthroat competition in every field. So in this unit, or in this session, we will begin with module number 6, that is a note making and note taking. This is also a skill oriented unit in which the practice is important rather than the discussion. So we will discuss this, and we will try to understand this unit through exercises instead of through the text that is prescribed to you. Here again, I would like to suggest you that here we are not supposed to understand the definition of note making and note taking, but here we are supposed to understand, here we are supposed to learn how to make notes or how to take notes. Understand that, as I told you, what is written and how it is written, both these things are important. But in when we were thinking in concern with the skills, we are more concerned with how, we are not more concerned with what. And when we were thinking about the subject matter, when we were thinking about the topic, we were thinking about what is written. So as we were learning skill, we are not here supposed to understand or supposed to focus on what is written, but we are supposed to understand how it is written, or how to write, or how to make notes, or how to take notes. So this is the difference between knowledge and skill. Knowledge is gathering information, and skill is using it. So we are supposed to use this. So let us continue, or let us start this module number 6, note making and note taking. In this unit, we are going to study two important skills that we need for all our academic achievements. Of course, yes, you can see in today's world, you can there is on a single click you have uh, an access to a huge library. You have an access of multiple books on a single topic. So in this context, in this contemporary world, in this contemporary situation, where we have a flood of information, we require these two skills, that is note making and note taking. It is not possible for us, as we have certain human limitations, it is not possible for us to discuss or to have memorize each and everything that we learn, or that we read, or that we listen. So in that situation, in that case, we require to note down something. We require to make certain notes. We require to take certain notes. So these two skills are most important in today's world. These two skills are very valid to achieve a good academic record. And it is not only useful in context of an academic achievement, but this is also very useful in your professional life. So this is what we are supposed to learn in this session. These skills are not note taking and note making, the two skills that we are supposed to learn in this session. These two are part and parcel of our daily learning practices. Of course, yes, when we read a textbook, or when we read a book of 500 pages or 600 pages, it is not possible for us to memorize each and every word from the book. Therefore, what we do, we prepare a gist of the book, that is the making notes. Or we came across, for example, there is a topic of a globalization, and globalization there are several books. So if you want to prepare your perceptive frame about a globalization, what you require to note down or make notes from different books and prepare your perceptive frame about the globalization. So this is what the very important thing today, to understand these two skills. So we use them while learning new things in our chosen subjects. However, we note that there are certain ways in which we can master these skills for improving our study habits and thereby achieving better results. Of course, you can understand that this is what we are supposed to learn, the ways to improve note making and note taking, to understand how to make notes or how to take notes. And these two things are skill oriented, these two things are not knowledge oriented. Therefore, you can see we will give more focus on the exercises instead of uh, reading. So let us see how we can enhance these skills. Note taking. See, it is quite likely that we assume note taking and note making to be one and the same thing. Many times we never differentiate between note making and note taking, or we think that note making means note taking, but that is not the case. You can see both these are two different skills. Both these are two different skills, and therefore these two skills were simultaneous. Instead of prescribing you note making, both these skill, note making and note taking, both were prescribed to you in this module. So let us see how we can enhance these skills. So it is quite likely that we assume note taking and note making to be one and the same thing, but they are different. But this is not the case. There is a difference between the two. Note taking is a technique which we are supposed to apply while we are attending lectures. For example, so when we were attending lectures, when we are listening speeches, you can see we have to take notes. We have to write down what the person is speaking. It is not possible for us to memorize each and every word spoken by the speaker. So in that case, or it may happen with us that we forget the important things that is suggested or that is given by the speaker. In that case, to memorize or to understand his lecture thoroughly, we supposed to take notes. So in taking notes, we were listening. In taking notes, we were listening. So when the teacher is explaining something, she may write the main point on the blackboard and we note it down in the notebook. That is a note taking. And these points may be noted by us in our notebook. Or even though the points are not written on the blackboard, we on our own may identify the important points in the lectures delivered by the teacher, and we may note them down in our notebook for further references. So this is what you can see are the important thing, that in note taking we are listening the lectures, we are attending the lectures, and while listening the lectures we were writing down, choking out certain important points from the lecture before the further references. So this is note taking. Understand that this is a very simple one, it is not a very difficult one. Only thing is that we were defining it in a textbook. Then note making, we will also understand both these skills in its differences. Note making. Note making, unlike note taking, is an independent task. It is an exercise which we do while reading or studying the subject on our own. So as I told you, if I want to understand a globalization or if I want to understand a market inflection, you can see I read different books, and when I read different books, I choke out the notes, and that is note making. I understand that in a specific book, for example, book A defines this term very influentially, so I write it down. Then in book B, I think examples of globalizations or the reasons of globalizations were explained very well. I note it down. So this is a note making in which I am not listening but I am reading, and this is the difference between note taking and note making. So we may note down the key points in the chapter or the topic as we go on reading it. So this is what is the difference between note making and note taking. It is an attempt to consolidate our understanding of the chosen subject. So when we read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books on a single topic, we prepare a perceptive frame. We understand what is globalization. We can see, or we form a corpus of a knowledge regarding the term. So this is the important thing we should understand regarding the note making. So both these things, as I told you, today you can see on YouTube you have several lectures. For example, if you are students of a physics, or if you want to understand a quantum physics, just type about a quantum physics on a YouTube. You will have several texts or several lectures on it. So this is what, in that case, we require a note taking. Or if you are a history student and understanding a history of an emergency, you can see you have four important books on emergency. One is written by Ashok Jain, one is written by British Tandon, and two were written by his personal assistant. And sorry, one is written by his personal assistant, and one is by Khushwant Singh. So if you want to, or there is one more, that is the fifth one, that is Max Navel's journalism in London Times. It is called as a Democracy in Eclipse. So if you read all these things, you will understand about the this historical event, that is a emergency period. So when you read all these things, what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to make notes for the further references. So this is what the important thing, you prepare the knowledge base with the help of note making and note taking. It is so we you understand it in consolidating or understanding all these texts. You prepare your own opinion about the emergency, and that is what the knowledge. Here we may note some factors that affect the nature of note taking and note making. So see, we will see this, the comparison between note making and note taking. See, note taking from lectures, seminars, and presentations. First, we are, or second, see, note making from textbooks, reference books, and journals. In note taking from lectures, we are part of a class of audience. We are part of class or audience. We were listening the seminars, presentations in seminars, presentations in the guest lectures. However, in note making, you can see we are the only readers. We were not the listeners, we were not in the audience, but we were the readers. We were reading the books, and while reading the book or books, we are noting, making notes. So the manner and speed of delivery of new information is not within our control. There is a little chance to begin from the beginning. So it becomes very difficult for us to catch the speed of what is spoken and what we were writing. So you can see it is a difficult one to take notes, because he go on delivering speech, delivering new knowledge, new information, and it becomes difficult for us to noting down each and everything. And in note making, you can see we can control your speed of reading. So it is in our hand that how to read. So you can also go back and forth as per your convenience while reading. So this is what the difference between note making and note taking. We can seek a clarification, raise questions for better understanding the points made by the teacher or presenter. In note taking, many times we feel that what is said is not clear, or it is difficult to understand. You may ask for clarification by the presentation, by the teacher or the presenter. And in note making, we have little scope to seek a clarification from the author. However, you can take the help of other resources. So you can go to the online YouTube, Google, and or other websites and understand the uh, appropriate, or you can solve the, or you can sort the clarification of the note. Then in note taking, you can see we have to adjust ourselves with the speaker. So we have to maintain the speed of our writing. However, in note making, you can see we can access the source as per the goal and capacity. Then we have to be attentive without break in note taking it is impossible to stop. However, in note making you can see we can take a break and resume at our leisure. So this is what the difference between note taking and note making. The above table that we have learned will make us aware of the fact that note making is more complex activity as compared to note taking. So because we were reading more and more resources and we are trying to understand the subject and or we are trying to make the notes. So in that situation you can see we may feel that everything that we were reading is important and we go on writing pages after pages. So that is not the appropriate method of making notes, because notes means gist of the topic or gist of that what we learn, that what we read, or that what we listen. So or even the same thing is happening with the note taking. When we were listening to the speaker, we feel that everything spoken is very important and we go on writing each and every word. So that is also not note taking. So this is we should understand that how to make notes and how to take notes. So in this chapter that we are supposed to learn, we will focus more on note making rather than note taking. Nevertheless, let us note a few important things regarding note taking at this juncture. As I told you that we will focus on note making because it is a very important tool of a learning. If we want to understand, if we want to learn something, we have to make the notes. In that situation, we require note making instead of note taking. So let us think about note taking first and then we will understand in detail about the note making. Defining the purpose. So we must be clear as to why we are going to take some points down from the lecture being delivered. So it is again when a guest lecture is conducted or the speaker starts speaking, in the very initial part of his speech, he defines or he suggests that about what he is going to speak. And in that situation you can see you are supposed to define your purpose, that why or what is the purpose that you are taking the notes. So in that situation you can also sort out the important in definition, important thing and least important things. Then being attentive. Taking notes while listening to a typical classroom lecture requires focused attention. Attention is the key to comprehension. So we must try to be as attentive as possible while attending a lecture. So if we lose our attention, you can see we will lose the important points. So we should be very attentive in the lectures. We should attend, we should listen very carefully about the lectures. The speaker and then write down the important notes. Then relating to the subject. So see, we must make sure that the topic we are studying is related to our syllabus. We must make sure that the point we are jotting down are going to be useful for our understanding of the subject. This last line is very important. We must make sure that the points we are jotting down and are going to be useful for our understanding of the subject. For example, if you are listening a lecture on a global warming, you can see, or globalization, you can understand that the definition of globalization, scholars of globalization, or the different opinions of globalization. You have to note it down. Then the reasons of globalization, then the privatization, then many other processes that is related to the globalization you have to write. Then effects of globalization you have to write. The future prospect of the globalization you have to write. So this is what you should understand, that there is a logical line in the speech and this logical line should be maintained in your note taking. So this is what, and this is again very becomes very important in the understanding of the subject. So when afterwards when I read the note, you can see I have a definition, I have reason, I have the effects, I have the future prospect of globalization. So all these things you can see I have with me and I can easily understand the subject. So this is what relating to the subject. Then the fourth one, that is making it memorable. So we must note the points in such a way that they help us recapitulate whatever we have received. We must see to it that these points help us develop our own understanding of the subject. So many times it happens with us, very hurriedly we take the notes, but afterwards we forget that what we have written, for what purpose this symbol is there. So this is what you should understand. You should make it memorable. So afterwards when you go through the notes, you will memorize or remember the what the speaker was speaking. So this is what making it memorable. Then the fifth one, that is being logical. As I told you, I give you the example of a globalization. We must note the points in some logical order. So as the speaker is also speaking logically, so we should also take the notes logically. This order may or may not be similar to the one reflected in the lecture that is delivered. That does not matter. So this is what being logical is also very important in taking notes. Then being objective. So it is necessary to be objective while studying. So instead of a subjective, instead of becoming more emotional, you should be detached, objective, on a objective position and think it critically. So when you think it critically, it is possible for you to understand the subject more significantly. So it is likely that we have a special liking for a particular topic or a particular person, but our personal preferences should not reflect in our act of note taking. Regardless of the topic or the person, we must be able to focus on learning. So this is what is the important thing in note taking. Instead of the style of speaker, instead of his costumes, his designs, we should be very particular about the topic that is explored by the speaker. So we will stop here and continue the same in the next session. We were discussing about note taking. Thank you for listening.